Good day. My presentation today is titled Everyone's and No One's Child, Uncovering Hindrances and Means to Fully Utilizing Child Adoption as a Sustainable Solution to the Orphanhood Crisis Experienced by Communities in Zimbabwe. I will provide some background. Zimbabwe has well over 1.3 million orphans. This is largely attributable to the HIV and AIDS pandemic. One can also theorize that the current COVID-19 pandemic will contribute significantly to the national orphan burden. As of October 2021, there had been 4,675 COVID-19 reported deaths. Put simply, Zimbabwe has an orphan crisis. The rate of orphanhood has gone far beyond the capacity of traditional extended family and community structures to absorb orphans. The national response to the orphan crisis has focused on strengthening traditional models of orphan care, which entail having the extended family and wider community assuming the care of orphans. There seems to be a systemic aversion to alternative models of orphan care such as child adoption. In fact, the National Orphan Care Policy places adoption only as its fifth preferred option of orphan care in its six-tier safety net system. I have included a picture of children in an orphanage in Zimbabwe. Most orphanages are reported to be operating at full capacity. Despite the many benefits of adoption to any orphan, which include long-term integration into a nurturing and permanent family system in which the child's basic needs can be met, child adoption remains a grossly underutilized orphan care model in Zimbabwe. Only 54 adoptions were successfully processed between 2010 and 2016. That's an average of 9 adoptions a year. There is also a paucity of information regarding the experiences of the relatively few adoptive parents who have successfully undergone the adoption process in Zimbabwe to allow one to glean any lessons learned from their experiences. With the aim of better understanding factors contributing to low child adoption rates in Zimbabwe, this study set out to explore the lived experiences of the few adopted parents in Zimbabwe. The specific objectives were to examine the adoption procedures as experienced by adoptive parents in Zimbabwe, to identify challenges associated with adoption, and to determine factors which contribute to successful adoption outcomes in Zimbabwe. This study was a qualitative study undertaken in 2020. It took the form of a case study of an adoption support agency in Harare, Zimbabwe, known as the Michael Project. It involved a focus group discussion with adoptive parents and in-depth interviews with key informants, including a social worker within the Department of Social Development and an adoption officer based at the Michael Project. Convenience sampling was used to identify adoptive parents, and purposive sampling was used to identify key informants. Adoption remains a taboo topic in Zimbabwe, and many families do not disclose to extended family or friends that their child or children are adopted, and many adoptive parents are not forthcoming regarding speaking about the experiences. As such, the agency invited parents in its support networks who are available and willing to participate in the study, hence the use of convenience sampling for the adoptive parents. For key informants, purposive sampling was used based on their extensive knowledge of the adoption processes in Zimbabwe. A thematic analysis was used to identify patterns and recurrent themes related to the research questions. Key findings. Regarding the experiences of adoptive parents with the adoption procedures in Zimbabwe, one theme emerged: unscripted. There was a pervasive sense that the adoption procedures within the Department of Social Development were unscripted, not standardized. Participants felt that the process was not regularized in terms of the sequence of steps and timeframes involved. As a result, they didn't know what to expect during the process. Moreover, the participants' actual experiences with the adoption process differed from each other's, such that it was not possible to delineate a clear process map from their actual experiences. As one participant remarked, the process has no formula, no time frames. The outcome is entirely dependent on your caseworker. We're at the mercy of human perception and the personality of the officer. The challenges associated with the adoption process in Zimbabwe could be categorized into three groups: sociocultural, administrative, and emotional challenges. Sociocultural challenges included rejection by the extended family and discrimination of the adopted child by cultural leaders. Parents reported being told that their adopted child did not belong to the family clan. Administrative challenges included incapacitated or under-resourced staff, administrative inefficiencies including high staff turnover within the department, a lack of integration between government offices and departments, delayed court hearings, and a lack of family-friendly courts. Policy shortcomings were also highlighted, particularly the lack of a standalone child adoption policy to guide key actors from both private and public sector. Emotional challenges included feelings of rejection and isolation, increased public scrutiny, pressures to succeed, and a generalized sense of fear of forced disclosure, failing, not bonding with the child, fears of avenging spirits, etc. Participants identified three factors they felt increased the likelihood of successful adoption outcomes, namely, having a proactive officer or social worker within the Department of Social Development working on your case, persistence on the part of the client, and having access to an effective adoption support network. Of the three, participants felt that having a proactive officer was the most influential factor. Given the perceived lack of regulation of the adoption process, they felt that adoption outcomes were heavily dependent on the know-how and commitment of the allocated adoption officer. Possible improvements to the adoption process in Zimbabwe fell into three main categories, namely system strengthening, policy formulation, and adoption support services. Under system strengthening, participants suggested that the Department of Social Development install an electronic record system, develop detailed standard operating procedures and monitor compliance, secure more funding for the department, and consider having a resident in-house magistrate in the department to finalize adoption proceedings in-house. Under policy formulation, participants recommended the drafting of a standalone child adoption policy, maternity leave for adoptive mothers, and the revision of key adoption official documents such as birth certificates and adoption orders. Under adoption support services, participants recommended that the Department of Social Development facilitate support services for adoptive parents to assist adoptive families cope with the challenges associated with the legal proceedings and provide psychosocial support to the entire adoptive family. In conclusion, the study aimed at exploring the lived experiences of adoptive parents in Zimbabwe, to examine the adoption process as experienced by adoptive parents in Zimbabwe, identify challenges associated with the adoption process, and determine factors which contribute to successful adoption outcomes. Key findings were that the adoption process in Zimbabwe is not adequately regulated or standardized. sociocultural, administrative, and emotional challenges associated with the adoption process were identified. Success factors include having a proactive DSS officer or social worker in the department, persistence on the part of the client, and having the support of an effective adoption support network. Improvements could be made in the way of system strengthening initiatives, policy formulation, and establishing state-run adoption support services. Recommendations to social policy makers and social service managers. Facilitate the drafting of a standalone child adoption policy. Facilitate the development of standard operating procedures to guide the child adoption process and monitor compliance. Go electronic. Increase efforts to secure more funding for the department so as to offer more competitive wages and ensure staff are well equipped. Consider operating a family court within the Department of Social Development. Revise key adoption official documents. Establish child adoption support services within the Department of Social Development. Implications for practice. Specialized adoption training may be beneficial for both new and existing social workers or adoption officers. The training may include training on procedural aspects as well as on how to provide effective psychosocial support to adoptive parents. This may help improve knowledge and competency levels and consequently the quality of service provided to clients. There is need to introduce adoption-related dialogue at community level using various existing community structures or platforms. This may help to increase awareness of and enhance a cultural acceptance of the concept of adoption. Establishing state-run adoption support networks would make support services more accessible to adoptive parents across Zimbabwe. Adoption support groups may be a cost and resource-effective means of providing psychosocial support to families and children undergoing the adoption process. Thank you. I will now open up the space for comments and questions.